Hey guys, welcome to Podiatry Practice Mastery. Don here, and recently I've been doing this course by Benjamin Hardy. So Ben is a guy. He's in strategic coach with me, and he's written a couple of books. One's called Who Not How. That's a good book if you haven't read it. It talks about using more like delegation, getting who's to do things for you versus doing it all yourself. And then also, like, my favorite, which I'm reading, I think this is like my third time now. It's called The Gap and the Gain. And you might be wondering why in the heck I'm reading it 3 times. Well, I'm kind of a slow learner, and I like to assimilate things. And in the past, I used to focus more on quantity, like getting through a lot of books, learning. And what I found now, it works a lot better just to kind of assimilate things and go a lot slower and not focus on so much the quantity, but then how it's applying to my life. And so that involves a lot of journaling, a lot of thinking, and kind of applying it. And then that's what I talk to you guys about for some of these things. But he has this online course based on one of his books called Personality Isn't Permanent. And so it's like a 30-day free course. Kind of neat. I would recommend you guys take it. You just go to Benjamin Hardy, I think it's .com. But I'm on like day 10 or something like that. And so basically it's a drip course. And I'll kind of explain a couple of the thoughts that I have. Well, one is, well, heck, if he did this with one of his books, my thought is I could very easily do a course based on the books that you guys have or the ones that I have. And it's very easy to do a drip course within this thing called Kajabi. So basically I take the book, let's say the Plantar Fasciitis book, and then just do like a 10-day, 14-day, or however many day course it is. And what I like is each of these segments, they're only about 10 minutes. They're digestible, and you don't get it all at once. I think that's one of the biggest drawbacks I find with this thing that I put together, this membership, this Podiatry Practice Mastery membership. Basically, it's a huge list of stuff that no one ever has time to go through, and they're kind of long lessons or long videos or things like that. So I'm thinking, like, for example, the interviews that I do are like 30 minutes. Who has time for 30 minutes? So I've thought about actually kind of revamping it to these 10-minute segments that'll appear maybe once a day or once a week or something else like that. That's what I'm learning with Ben's course. But the course today, what I liked about it talked about something called your future self, and I've been familiar with this concept for a while, but let me just kind of walk you guys through it. I don't want to teach it, but I'm just going to kind of say how it's affected me. So we live in our current understanding where we're at. We think we're like a static being, but really we're made up of everything that happens in the past to us, and specifically that's like all the traumas and things like that from our past. And if we don't really find meaning and find answers with our past, it can hold us, okay? So we all have difficult things. I'll just give you an example from my life, okay? Recently I was doing a neuroma surgery, right? And then this patient had some pain afterwards, and then almost like a stump neuroma pain. And this is something that we all kind of hear about, we learn about. I've never had one in about 15 years that I've been doing these. But then I had it, and it's kind of like a trauma, and how you frame it, right, is how you kind of deal with it. And so he talks about, like, what would you tell yourself if you could do it over again? Maybe being a little bit more careful, maybe being nice to yourself, or having a plan B, having someone else that maybe has seen more of the stump neuromas afterwards. Reading more about the stump neuromas. There's other things that you can do for this. But if you don't work through that, right, it can cause a lot of trauma. And those are things that are important in the past to work through. And so within the book, he talks about, basically it's a concept of Dan Sullivan called an experience transformer. So you can take anything that happens in your past and you can transform it. Because until you learn lessons from what happened, you're going to be like a victim of it. And so one of the things that he emphasizes is, like, it's not what happened to you, it's what happened for you. When you take it, what happened to you, you're a victim, right? It's external. You have no control and no responsibility over it. When it's something that's happening for you, it's something that you have some control over. So something that you can do about and gain some lessons from it. Okay? So that's one of the main keys. And so you take something, an experience, like what was good about it, what wasn't so good about it, what you would do differently, or if you could do it over again, what you would do differently, and then what are some plans for the future. So this is called an experience transformer, something that we learn in Strategic Coach. It's a good mental exercise. I think it's a very similar exercise that a lot of psychologists use as well. So that's one thing we talked about in this course that Ben Hardy is doing. Another thing that I like, though, that we're talking about today is like your future self. So I think a lot of times we're so darn hard on ourselves of what we can do, what we can't do, and I want to talk specifically about this podiatry practice mastery. So this is a hard thing, guys, for and gals that are here. It's hard because it's putting me out in my comfort zone, and I'm at about episode, I think it's about 303, and it's been fun to do, but it's also very vulnerable. And so one of the things that he says is, well, if you put yourself forward, let's say 20 years from now, right? So I'm 43 right now, so I'll be, let's say, 63 20 years from now. What would I say to myself regarding, let's talk about both my practice and with podiatry practice mastery, right? And so what I would say to myself, you kind of look at yourself and what type of words of wisdom. It's called future pacing. It's like putting yourself in the future and then kind of talking back and saying, well, what you would say to yourself. And it's kind of nice because I think a lot of us, we would be a lot more patient with ourselves. I think we would tell ourselves, be a lot more compassionate with things that are happening. With, for example, this surgery that I'm concerned with 20 years from now, I'm not even going to remember. Everything's going to work out. It'll be fine. Be more patient with myself. Tell myself, it's going to be fine with these surgeries. Give myself permission to do what I want to do. Give myself permission to maybe take more chances, because where my focus is on this year is developing these patient presentations, these PowerPoints that I use, and I think they would really benefit the profession, and trying to find a way to get that out there without like affecting or taking away time from my family or from my church or even affecting my professional life. So it's kind of a challenge because I'm working full-time and then trying to do this thing on the side. And then I still have my church obligations and my family obligations. So it's a lot of things to do. And I think like my future self would say, don't worry about how quickly you get it done. Just kind of go forward and then try to make good use of the downtime and practice it on yourself. That's kind of what it is. It's me practicing these presentations on my own self or using them every single day and then constantly making them better and then offering them to others. And so that's kind of what the future pace is. Anyway, it's a good program. I would consider it. And I'm a big, this has been the last couple of years, of a big believer of journaling. So if you guys don't have a journal, I think it's actually more important to have good questions than anything else. So when we have these good questions we can go through, it can work our minds. So one of the things I look at when anything happens to me, I say, well, how did this happen for me? Like, what are the lessons that I learned? What are the strategic byproducts? Like, what did I learn from this, or what can I take away? And what am I going to do differently in the future? So it takes a lot of the focus out of comparing with other people of what everyone else is doing and focusing only on what you're doing and how you can improve that. They're kind of like deep psychological philosophical ideas, but these are things that I really enjoy doing, and I think they really help take my life and make it more focused on what I'm doing and improving on that than comparing it with others. Because for me, when I start to compare, it robs my joy and it makes it very external versus I don't have any control over it, whereas I control how I evaluate things and look at things. Anyway, if you guys like these rants here about these psychological things, let me know. This is something that's part of me, so I like to share it on this podcast. I'd love to know what you guys think. I've got some feedback lately, some encouragement from some other podiatrists in other countries, people saying keep it up. I hope you guys have enjoyed some of these interviews. If you have any other good people to interview, if you want to be interviewed, let me know. I'll send you a link. And if you haven't downloaded this tech list that I have on the front page of Podiatry Practice Mastery, I would recommend it. This is all the technology that I use. And then my other thoughts, a couple of other things I'm looking at doing are doing like a CD. And why CD? Well, I think everyone is really busy, but we all have kind of drive time. So putting a CD in your car, I think, is something that there could be some benefit of doing a CD. And then something else, since I've seen Ben's course, I really like this 30-day course. So kind of taking this Podiatry Practice Mastery, this membership thing, and kind of revamping it and making it, I don't know, a 30-day course or a 15-day course or something else like that can drip out one day at a time instead of giving everything to people right away. Anyway, those are the thoughts for the future, guys. Okay, have a great day.